Meeting. I will call this meeting to order at 12:04 p.m. Our agenda for today is currently shown on screen. We will start with public comment. Public comment shall be for a period of 20 minutes. Any individual wishing to speak before the committee will identify themselves by name and shall speak for no longer than 3 minutes. All remarks will be addressed through the chair of the meeting. And please, just a note for everyone's benefit, public comment is not a discussion, a debate, or dialogue between individuals in the committee. It's just an opportunity for folks to express their opinions on issues of school committee business. And if anyone has written comments that extend longer than 3 minutes, we are more than happy to have them presented to the committee either during or after the meeting, and we will make those part of the record, and they will certainly be reviewed and considered by committee members at an appropriate time. I'd like to request that our Vice Chair, Ms. Minyarji, keep time for us. And if everyone could just be respectful of, she might have a chime that goes off at 3 minutes for those who are participating. So just please be respectful of that and don't hopefully put us in a position where we have to cut you off. Happy, as I said, to take those remarks as written comments after the fact. So with that, if anyone who is interested in providing public comment today would raise their digital hand, I will ask Mr. Marin, who is running the webinar for us, to elevate those folks as their hands are raised. I see 2 people well, now we're down to 1 with their hand raised. So Mr. Marin, if you could elevate Alyssa Loring, Torella.
Yes, Dr. Mathis, I brought over Mr. Brady first.
Oh, you already brought Mr. Brady over. So let's do Mr. Brady first. Seamus Brady.
Thank you so much, Seamus Brady, 15 Clematis Street. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. First, thank you all. I know you've got some challenging work ahead of you with the changes in the budget. I've certainly sat in that seat in my own regard enough times to not envy you at all, but I do thank you for the hard work that you're going to do. Just speaking as a member of the Morocco community and obviously as a parent of 1 and soon to be 2 public school students in Winchester, I do sincerely hope that you will, at Springtown meeting, both continue to support going forward with the feasibility study for Morocco. I think that's important. I've said it at this particular body many times over. Starting in 2020, Morocco does not need to wait anymore, nor should it. I know you all can get it done, and I thank you for getting it done. I know you'll have town meeting support. Also, in terms of literacy, you all have done really great work. I'm very excited about the curriculum. And again, I know town meeting will get that done. So I think we can bring forward those 2 things. I know they're not small asks, but again, I'm confident in town meeting. I'm confident in you all to be strong advocates. I think your advocacy matters. And I have a lot of respect for all of you. And I know you'll do the right thing. And I thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Brady. I really appreciate that. Moving along, I believe that Ms. Loring Torella had her hand raised. Oh, there it went back up again. So if we could promote her, that would be great.
All right, there we go. Hi, everyone. My name's Alyssa Loring Torella. Many of you know that I am a Morocco mom with a 2nd grader, an incoming kindergartner. I also have a 2-year-old at home. I'm here to urge you to vote to take favorable action on the Morocco School Feasibility Study for Springtown meeting. We've all seen the existing conditions presented in the MSBA Statement of Interest from earlier this year, and it's clear that the strategy of life extension is reaching its limit, and we can't keep putting Band-Aids on the building. Now, Morocco parents understand that there are major challenges and you guys have a lot of work to do, and we appreciate everything that you have to do. The plan before the override failure was to work on Morocco and bring this to Springtown meeting, and it's not a guarantee that we'll continue to be invited back into the MSBA process, as we were denied, as you all know, in 2017 and 2018. I feel strongly that we need to take the opportunity in front of us. For our students, it's not just about old equipment and classroom spaces that are too small for the modern educational standards. It's honestly about the air that they are breathing 6 hours a day, and relying on windows for air quality and temperature control, as some classrooms do, is just unacceptable. As we try to integrate more technology into our classrooms, we're doing so on a backbone that engineers describe as having limited capacity and limits our students in their K-5 experience, while other K-5s in town have STEAM dedicated rooms and 3D printers and more. Beyond the systems, the building envelope itself is failing, and the SOI mentions over $25 million in urgent or critical replacement and renewal costs, which is just wild. But our staff does the best they can in the building they have, but a lack of soundproofing, limited large group spaces, and their open concept building that was partitioned really limits them. We owe it to the Morocco students and staff to move beyond stopgap repairs. I really appreciate your time. I know that you guys have a lot of hard work ahead of you, and we appreciate everything you do. But I really urge you to move Morocco forward so that we can have a safe, modern, and efficient Morocco to serve our neighborhood for all of the generations to come.
Thanks so much. If there's anyone else who'd like to provide public comment, please raise your digital hand now. I'll just give it 10 more seconds. All right, we have one more, Joanna Shea O'Brien.
Hello, everybody. Joanna Shea O'Brien here. I'm a former Morocco parent, and I've been working for quite some time with the Morocco parent community and alumni community. And I just want to second what Alyssa and Seamus before me said about, again, appreciate all the work that you already have done, including this summer for Morocco. And I know you have a hard task ahead, but really encouraging the school committee to bring the feasibility study forward and support that effort. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I'll give it 5 more seconds if anyone else wants to raise their digital hand. All right, so at this time, I am happy to close public comment and thank our 3 commenters for their feedback. We really appreciate you coming to our meeting today and providing all of the comments that you made, and we will make sure to consider those as we move forward. The next item on our agenda is remarks from our superintendent, from our chair, and although I believe they're all in school today, our student representatives. So I think it'll just be the superintendent and chair today, and I'd like to invite Dr. Hackett to start us off.
Dr. Matthews, good afternoon, everybody. Not really anything to specific to report on, other than, I mean, there's certainly a lot of great things going. But as you can imagine, our office has been engaged in trying to work through the budget issues and develop recommendations for you as a school committee. And we have been using the same process you have used as a committee. We have the budget subcommittee. Our plan is to meet with them first, which we did, and you'll hear a little bit of an update on that. We will preview what our recommendations are at that meeting, and then they will come to you as a full committee. We met with the union leadership today just to begin the discussion of what we're likely looking at in broad terms, overall number of the reduction amount, the challenges that we're facing, just trying to help them understand the bigger picture, beginning to kind of narrow it down a little bit, give them some sense of those things that we are able to share with them right now. It was a very good meeting. They are not surprised; they're disappointed. I think that we have to be in this position, obviously. So, but it was a good meeting. They had good questions. So we just actually got off that about 3 minutes before this meeting started. You have meetings next week. I know we're going to get to that a little bit later. So we are anticipating on continuing this work. Our goal is to be able to provide information, as much information as we can as we go. If there are things that we can declare with some level of certainty, we will do that. We're not waiting to get the entire solution to this developed before we start trying to provide some relief to people. If there are some things, information along the way that we can put out, we are very much, as you are, very much cognizant of that we have an anxious staff, we have anxious parents and community. So I just wanted to say that you know, while we are working as quickly as we can, it is complicated. We need to be thorough, but as we go along, if there are batches of information that we can release and put out there, then we plan to do that. Obviously, it would come through the budget subcommittee first, but that's kind of how we're approaching the task. So with that, I will yield whatever time I may have had.
Back. All right. Thanks so much, Dr. Hackett. I wanted to acknowledge, first of all, that it is not always our practice to meet at 12 noon, but given the fact that this is a significant week for different religious traditions, it was the time that worked for us this week. We certainly will continue to explore during this unprecedented period of extra meetings what times work best for us and what modalities in person and online work best for the committee. As Dr. Hackett said, we anticipate actually that the committee will be meeting twice weekly for the next 2 weeks. That also likely means that our budget subcommittee will be meeting also another twice weekly over the next 2 weeks. And then, as Dr. Hackett acknowledged, we go into the vacation week. However, during that time, we anticipate that the committee will also be meeting remotely as we prepare to finalize our work for the adjusted budget for Springtown meeting. I know that there are a number of meetings sort of in flight in the next couple of weeks in addition to that, which is obviously going to be a lot of fun for members of our committee. We are planning to meet with the Finance Committee as well as members of the Select Board to discuss the budget. And those will allow us to get more clarity on what Dr. Hackett was talking about in specific in regards to things we can rule out, things that we can message to the community we've already considered and set aside as we move towards the reductions and cuts that we anticipate having to propose as part of Springtown meeting because of the unfortunate failure of the override. As I said last week, I'm grateful for the continued participation of the community. Particularly wanted to thank our representatives from the Morocco community that were here today, which also happens to be my family's homeschool zone. Very much hear your concerns. It is something that is on our minds as a committee. Obviously wanting to respond to those as best we can. So stay tuned not only today, but also in the meetings over the coming weeks. Other things I wanted to highlight. The budget subcommittee right now is a sort of temporary committee of the chair and vice chair because it's not a normal situation to have to readjust our budget at this late date. But we also will do some subcommittee appointments later in the meeting, and those will be ones that span over the next year. And with that, I think I will be mindful of the fact that I think we all have some stoppage at the end of this meeting and want to move on to agenda item 4A, which is the consideration of Springtown meeting warrant articles. And I believe that Mr. Marin has a document to pull up on the screen for us to look at. So just while we're waiting for that, we have to make some adjustments in language based on some updates that have happened since the last meeting. And I believe that will be in 2 areas today. Is that correct, Dr. Hackett and Mr. Marin? So it'll be around the Morocco feasibility study article as well as the literacy program article, which we now have additional information to go into and commit to the town meeting motions and background that will go out. So Dr. Hackett, Mr. Marin, do you want to present on the changes here?
And Andrew, can you make that a little larger too?
Aaron, feel free to take it.
Thank you.
So in front of you is the language around Morocco feasibility. So you previously voted on the article. And so here, looking for you to reaffirm or amend that vote, including the language on the motion itself. And then we've included the background as well that just gets attached for town meeting purposes. So I'm just scrolling down. So there's no changes to the article language we presented to you. What's drafted here is the motion language. And parallel to this, we sent this to MSBA as well. So their attorneys need to confirm the legal language referenced here. So that's outstanding, but we're looking for you to review and support this as presented. And then if the MSBA recommends any changes, we'll come back to you with that.
Are
Would
there
they be able to
questions?
send us? Oh, sorry, Karen, go for it.
Just for that one.
Ms.
Sorry, you can
Bolognese?
go ahead. You can go ahead if you had something.
We'll take Ms. Bolognese first and then Ms. Minyarji.
Yeah, you raised your
Okay.
hand first. It's only fair.
Raise your
Digital,
hand.
digital etiquette is in full display by the school committee today.
That
I
was a
love it.
lesson during budget sub yesterday, but yeah.
Okay. I just had two questions. One was just on the background. I think there was some mention that Morocco was the only facility that still had a combined auditorium, gymnasium, and cafeteria. And is that
Yes, that will be updated.
that will be updated? Okay, alrighty. And then the other question is a little broader. With the amount that is being requested, I guess I was just wondering, based on previous history with Lynch, I thought Lynch had ended up at 1.5 million a number of years ago. And will that be enough for this feasibility study?
So we have no reason to think it won't be enough. Actually, the MSBA was advising 800 to 1 million. I think Lynch
Okay.
was more complicated in many ways, and it also dragged out a little bit more. With speaking of the timeline for the MSBA, Lynch actually extended with permission from MSBA beyond the 270-day window because there were some enrollment questions, and those numbers changed, as you all remember. So we would not have reason to anticipate it would be more than that. It always can be. You never know. So, but we think that's a solid number.
That's great. Thank you.
Thanks for raising that, Ms. Bolognese, because I also noticed the question about the CAFA gymatorium, which is thankfully now changed for our Morocco families.
I
Ms.
didn't even
Minyarji.
want to try the word.
Ms. Minyarji, I think you're on mute.
Nope. I just wanted to make sure it was my turn. Yes. Is there additional information that the MSBA is waiting for, or is there any additional information that we need before we can start the study? Has that been a conversation with EFPBC
Yes.
or with MSBA?
Yeah,
So
go ahead, Dr.
go ahead, Andrew. I've got one thing else.
Yes, yeah, I can say, yeah, we've started meeting with MSBA, and we have a whole project timeline and milestones to meet now through end of November, essentially. And so there are things around confirming the EFPPC and the makeup of that group, and then around educational programming goals. Some like initial elements that we need to document it and send. So we can bring that to you as the large group, kind of what the overall timeline is for some of those milestones. And this legal language here is one of those. to include.
So the educational programming needs to be done before the feasibility study starts. Is that correct?
No,
Right.
Or
yeah,
they
there's
have at the same time?
yeah, there's different elements to that.
No, go ahead.
Sorry, Dr. Hackett, you want to weigh in? Yeah, there's some layers that are MSBA requires us to weigh in on, and then there's more kind of broader community engagement with the community as we go through the feasibility studies process and bring on those consultants.
The MSB is very clear that we can't get out ahead of them. So the process leading up to now we're in eligibility, next phase being feasibility. We will, we'll be sending them information. We'll be in contact with them. They kind of give us the green light on each one of these modules. Districts have made the mistake to enter into feasibility contract with someone to start doing it and ahead of the MSBA, and it jeopardized their actual reimbursement. And so they're very, very regimented and adhere to their schedule. So there really isn't anything, and I don't know if this was part of your question, but there isn't anything that we can do right now ahead of time. We obviously, the educational plan, we just did that for Lynch. We are working on that. We know what that looks like and the elements of that, but there really isn't anything else that we are able to kind of tee up.
I'd also add that the December 12th invitation letter from the MSBA, like that third page, has the breakdown of what the interim steps are on that checklist before November 27th, when we're at the end of the 270 days. And I think that's in our shared drive.
Yeah, I'll confirm that the component around the educational parts of this are profile questionnaire that's in that milestone. That's part of this process, but that's a much broader process once we get deeper into the project. So,
are there other questions?
So I'm sorry, the 1.5 million for a feasibility study, this is going to, MSBA is going to review this, but in terms of what our ask is of town meeting, is it the 1.5 million in free cash, or is that going to be bonded out?
We would ask for, I'm not a municipal finance expert, but we would ask for the authorization to spend 1.5. That's, when you go through this process, it's not that we're going to kind of check 1.5 the day after it would be considered an approved at town meeting. So that happens over a period of time. My understanding with the places that I have been, the town does a bond anticipation note, pays interest only, because the feasibility study is also reimbursable at the rate of our reimbursement. So you don't have to come up with a full amount. It's really bond anticipation note. Then it gets rolled into the entire bond of the project when you go up for the voter approval.
And just to confirm, the expectation is 1.5 is the high end here, and that we just want to be covered for all contingencies, but the hope is that we come in for less, right?
It's always the hope. Definitely, I would say the hope is we doesn't need more. But if we would be going from feasibility fairly quickly into schematic design. So in one location that I was in and did a project, the feasibility was a little bit higher than what had been authorized, but because they're so close together, the schematic design, it was just kind of rolled into the request for that funding. Some districts will go out and ask for the whole thing at once, an amount for feasibility and schematic. I think that's very hard to do. It's hard to really get a good number.
And a tough time to do that.
It's just, yeah, it's a lot of money right now when we're looking at a reduced budget.
Mr. Belair, question.
Yeah, Dr. Hackett, could you share a little bit more about like what the process has looked like to get to this point? Because my understanding is that we've submitted statements of interest in the past, and that it's kind of been a long process to even get where we are right now in the MSBA pipeline. So could you share a little bit more context about the situation we're in and maybe the likelihood of being able to get this far, years down the line if we don't take action on this?
Sure. I'm happy to share what I know. Some of you on this call know better than I do. When I got here in 21-22, Lynch was already, it was in process, hadn't begun construction. Actually, I think the first 6 months or so that I was here, we did a visioning process. The OPM and architect design team had already been brought on board prior to my arrival. We did a visioning process. And then that year we were running the educational plan. We were in feasibility. Then we went to schematic design, then preferred schematic design. So at no time since Lynch was approved, has Morocco been applied for again, to my knowledge. It has not been applied. It was not applied for again from 21-22 till currently. We submitted the statement of interest last year in spring. And, I have to be honest, I did think we had a really good shot at it for a few reasons. But the MSBA generally does not approve or invite people in for eligibility for a project if you're already in one, until that project is closed out. I think they have a lot of confidence in Winchester. I think we've proven to be good partners in supporting these projects. I also think that because they came out and looked at Morocco when they were looking at Lynch, they had a pretty good handle on what that looked like. When they did the site visit, and the site visit was in the fall. We had already completed the work that we did with some of the over the course of the summer, and didn't matter to them. I mean, they understood exactly what that work was. So it did not faze them that we had put some new flooring tile down or paint. They understood very much so the condition of the building. So that was not an issue at all. I also think the MSBA is in a position right now where the majority of what they're faced with are very expensive high school projects. And I think that the slate of elementary schools, which are generally less expensive, has been cleaned up for them. As you can imagine, I don't believe there are very many, if any at all, schools that are faced with enrollment issues, that they are over enrolled and they have modular units, because overcrowding was, next to health and safety, overcrowding was the #1 criteria that the MSBA would be looking at through the statement of interest process. So I think that criteria is no longer true, or as strong a criteria as it was for them 5 years ago. So they want to work with us. They are on our team. They are on our side. This is not a got you process. They have very clear timelines. They schedule the meetings. We work with them very closely. As I said, Lynch needed to go outside of 270 days. That can happen. That doesn't, there was a good reason. Presumably the district worked with the MSBA, had clear communication around that, and it was granted. They want to do this project. So they will work with us. I would say that if we were not to move forward, like at all, if that is your question, and notify them that we weren't going to move forward, if that is your question, I'm not sure that it is, but we won't get another shot at this. That will be a decision that will be the end of that project, I'm sure we can understand it. There are school systems right behind us that are, if we don't spend it, they will move on. I actually had the former executive director come to a school committee town council meeting in a different location, and he actually brought a bag, and he said, I've come with money. It's yours if you want it. If you don't want it, let me know, and I'm going to take it with me. So they want to support us. So,
and we want their support.
And we want their support.
We want a new Morocco. But I think John's question, it wasn't if we delay, say, until November for asking for the feasibility study commitment from town meeting, does that compromise the timeline?
It's a 270-day window for eligibility. And inclusive in that 270 days intentionally on that part is the spring and fall town meetings. That's why they set it up this way, because they know that one, could be a scenario where you need 2 town meetings to get it passed. 2, there could be all kinds of reasons why you choose spring or choose fall intentionally. So they want to work with us. They create that window to maximize opportunities to move forward.
So they wouldn't be spooked if we waited until November.
We just have to get it to it within 270 days.
Great.
Or have a conversation with them about why we need more time. But I don't think that would be a conversation that would be justified with this project.
Oh, if we went beyond fall town meeting, if we had to go beyond the 270. Oh, yes. No, that's understood.
And the 270 days, I'm sorry if you just said this, is end of November?
November 27th.
Are there other questions? No? All right, then
Yeah, go ahead.
Dr. Hopcroft. No, I'm happy to ask mine actually. So I have 2 questions. Dr. Hackett, what would so I guess this is a 2-part question. What would the financial impact to the town of this article be in reality, given that the likely process leads to a bond anticipation note? So what's the sort of real cash implication to the town?
Well, it'd be a bond anticipation note, so it would be the interest on that, be multiple bond anticipation notes. So it would be presumably the town would take a bond anticipation note when they needed an amount of money to spend on feasibility, and presumably it would be the interest only on that amount of money over the course of that time frame. But again, I don't know how the town has done it. I was not here for that piece with Lynch, but I believe that is, well, I know that is what most places will do. And again, because the actual feasibility amount in the end rolls into the total bond. So whatever you end up spending through feasibility, that amount of money is part of the overall bond package when you go out to the voters for approval. There are places who have gone out for approval on a project. They've spent money on feasibility. The project didn't pass, and they had to eat that amount of money. That's happened more frequently than I would have expected. But I think we can understand that.
And I guess part B of that question is what is the amount of money that we anticipate? Just to clarify for folks, I know the answer to this question, but I just want it to be out there.
Are you leading the witness?
I'm leading the witness. Yes. It's
going to be a lot. It's going to be disappointing for everybody on this call that if you know the answer to the question and I don't, I'm just going to put that out there right now. So.
I mean, this is one of the answer to. So if not, Mr. Marin, what is the support that we get from the MSBA in terms of the total project cost? So what is the financial implication of that bag of money that you referred to that they showed up at a meeting in another community with?
It's a great question. I believe right now our effective reimbursement rate is 37 or 38%. Is that right?
Actually, for FY26, our rate would be 32%, and that's items that are reimbursable. So that's be, you can dig into it a little more.
That's the tough part. So it's not 32% of the total project costs. There are things that are not reimbursable within any project. So that we don't get reimbursement on those items.
But suffice it to say, it's tens of millions of dollars on a $90 million project, say.
It would be tens of millions of dollars, and I'm going to say right now that I have no idea what the total project cost would be, and I have advised people since I've been here to not talk numbers on total project costs because you just can't. It's just too early.
But
you can do certainly the straight line number of square feet times construction costs, and that, but everyone, you just need to be super clear that's what that formula is.
But just to be clear, it's between $1 and $4 and $1 and $3 of, depending on the exact reimbursement rate. Hopefully it's getting closer to 1/3 of the eligible dollars that are spent on the project would be reimbursed by the state.
Correct. There are caps, like, for example, on site work.
Yeah.
So you can always, at some point you don't get any reimbursement because they don't want places building, long winding roads that are oak tree lined to the school. So there are certain items like that they'll reimburse up to a certain amount.
But it's a significant amount. So
yes. Yeah, it's a lot of money.
My second question is around the Morocco building, and there's been a good deal of conversation, certainly that's been brought up during the course of the override campaign about the sort of enrollment trends in the district. And I just wanted, if you could, for you to specifically, whether it's Dr. Hackett or Mr. Marin, talk about sort of where we're at in terms of the other 4 elementary buildings we have in the district, and how Morocco from a capacity standpoint fits into the current elementary enrollment. And obviously I know from having worked with you that we know a little bit from the town census about what's coming down the pike, but just looking at the total enrollment of the picture, the total elementary enrollment picture of the district as it currently stands, how do you see Morocco fitting in, given our space needs as a district, both now and sort of in the near to medium term future?
I'm not entirely sure I understand your question, but I'm going to answer it the way I want to answer it. And then you can tell me if it's not right. I'm sitting in the ground garden level of Lincoln right now. There are several other central office administrators who are here in Lincoln because we have no place to go. There are other places, other part of our operations where Mr. Mayor is at the high school with the business office and tech, taking up spaces at the high school because we have no place to go. And that is just a general commentary when we talk about, what is the need. What the MSBA cares about, as you know, is that we're using the space. The spaces are purposely designed for the purpose for which they're being used. So I would say that every one of our elementary schools now has spaces that are being used for something other than what they were designed for. There are multiple reasons why that might be true, whether it is that we can't staff a particular element of the building, but more often than not, it is because we are providing services to students, small groups of students, or we are providing in-district programming. Morocco has an in-district program, as you know. That building was not built 50 years ago to house an in-district program. So, in a new building, and this is what the space summary process is in the actual education plan. The reason why the MSBA does that, they want you to tell them what you want for an educational program in the building. That's how they design it. And then that's what they base all of it off. It's not how many square feet do you need. It's not, they have allocations of square footage, but they are very much committed to providing communities with the building that the community believes they need to meet the educational goals of their school system. So I think, we have modular units in Morocco. We have modular units at Ambrose. I think VO is breathing a little bit easier now because we took the 2 sections of preschool out of VO. But I can tell you that I'm sure if Principal Karen were on this call, she would tell you the 3 additional spaces that she would really feel that they would need to have at VO to accommodate programming or student needs that they don't have currently. So it really is the overall educational package and goals of the district. It's obviously, in a new building project, you're going to get a cafeteria. You can get a full kitchen if you want one. We proved that in Lynch. You're going to get some kind of gymnasium, physical education space. At the elementary level, it is physical education space. It's not high school basketball space. We spent extra money, speaking of costs that are not eligible, in the Lynch project, making the Lynch Gymnasium a regulation high school size gym was additional money that the local had, was part of our project. It was not reimbursable because they don't reimburse anything other than the phys ed program. You're going to get, whatever other spaces, a library media center, you're going to get steam room if you put it in the educational plan. So I think every single figuring out how many classrooms we need per grade level is, which might be your question. We do not have space in the district to house another school. I say that because I've heard that being suggested at times. We need the Morocco building. I mean, we need that school. And if we definitely need it, we need it now. The need for it now is not as great as the need was 5 years ago, 6 years ago, in terms of the actual enrollment pressure. But it also is a 50-year building. We've proven that with Morocco, right? These buildings are built and designed to last for 50 years. And unless there's any relatives of Nostradamus on this call, I don't think we can predict what enrollments will look like in 30 years, 20 years, 10 years even. So I think that the community needs the facility. The Morocco community needs the facility. I don't see a scenario where we don't need the facility. Now, I mean, you can make anything work. As I sit here in Lincoln and Andrew sits at the high school, and Jen and Lori, I don't ever really know for sure. They find spaces, and they're generally home here at Lincoln in a space that is not designed for anything, really. But they're on the road a lot too, trying to grab spaces. So
let me just be, yes, you got the gist of my question, but let me just ask it really bluntly, which is, as current enrollment at the elementary level in the Winchester Public Schools stands, would it be possible to function and have sufficient space for our both currently enrolled and anticipated to be enrolled students with the Morocco building closed?
No.
All right, thank you.
Now, it is going to be a question, because everyone on this call, on this meeting, knows that our enrollments at Morocco have declined now, but the enrollments at the elementary level across the entire district has declined. So as
enrollment across the Commonwealth has gone down.
Across the Commonwealth. In fact, we're generally more immune to, in Winchester, immune to that trend than other places. Having said that, when we go through this process of schematic design and the educational plan, we will, it's fairly soon in this process, need to land on an enrollment number that the building will be built for. That then drives everything. So that's a conversation that's part of this process. There's a whole enrollment part of it that we will be going through. They were here knowing what our enrollment looked like. They came to our building. They are okay with it. I mean, so they are telling us that they agree that we have a need for that building. But the process will include, at some point, decisions around how many classrooms per grade level are we looking at, and what is the design enrollment that we're going to be building toward.
Yeah, I just want to note that looking back to the years sort of 20 plus ago, the current level of enrollment, which seems to be holding somewhat steady. I think it's important for folks to understand that there was an aberration, and that aberration was the very large number of students that are currently filtering through the middle school and the high school. So that was a substantially higher level of enrollment than the Winchester Public Schools had seen prior to that. And that peak, that sort of wave peak that continues to sort of filter through, was something of an anomaly. We really got to a place, certainly around the time of the last facilities master plan being updated, where things were breaking. I mean, essentially the capacity was being broken by the level of enrollment. And that led to modular classrooms, as you said, Dr. Hackett, at a couple of our buildings. and it led to some needs, obviously, in terms of expansion at the high school and middle school. I think that it didn't. We were never in a position. Many years ago, Winchester had more elementary schools than it does now, but we were certainly never in a position where I think we were anticipating supporting the sort of current level of elementary enrollment in the district with 4 buildings or fewer. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit because I think it's important for folks to understand, even though there has been something of a decline, there's 2 sort of notable trends about that. One of them is it went down after 2020, but then stayed flat. It does not necessarily continue to decline for the moment. And so we sort of, I think, have a really good sense of where we're at. It's not that, each new kindergarten class is getting smaller and smaller. They've sort of settled at a smaller rate. We're picking up some kids coming into grade 1, but for the most part, we kind of know what the new normal it looks like. And that's already, I think the point I wanted to make is that's already been baked into all of the assumptions and planning around the new Morocco with MSBA. So unless we have other questions, I think actually, so we have 2 things to deal with. I would invite a motion to accept the updated, it is the motion and background language for the Springtown meeting warrant regarding the Morocco feasibility study article.
So moved.
Second.
Go ahead, or Stephanie.
I was going to suggest, should we wait to hear MSBA feedback on the language because it could change? Is that what you said, Andrew or Frank?
Yeah, I think you generally don't you generally have a caveat, and when you do this, that with changes that needed by council or whatever.
I think we have a deadline that we need to meet. Given how many meetings we have scheduled, we may be able to still get to that, but I think I would feel more comfortable with the caveat. So making the motion and moving it forward with the caveat that it could be updated pending review of MSBA council.
Yeah, I'm happy to make a motion. I mean, I feel like, there's a threshold question of, whether we think Morocco should be rebuilt, which, I know I certainly am there. We've made that commitment over the years. The condition of the building is not good. We need the space, et cetera. And so then the only other question is, on the timing of the feasibility study. And again, it sounds like, I think you made the point very clearly, Dr. Matthews, that and Dr. Hackett, that the cost of what's drawn down on an interest-only loan over 6 months, is not terribly significant, and certainly it reduces the risk. I would rather bring this to town meeting and understand any concerns that town meeting has, and be able to address those concerns at another town meeting should there be an issue, versus holding off onto it. So from my point of view, it seems, and I think the point was also made, that this is a 50-year building, that, if, unless we're questioning whether we need, to rebuild Morocco, which I don't, again, speaking for myself, I don't think we're in that territory. It strikes me that this is the lower risk thing to do for a relatively low cost. So I'm supportive, and along the same lines, I'm supportive of voting it now, even if we need to make another vote later to change things. Just there's a lot of moving parts between now and town meeting, and if we can check some things off and not risk missing deadlines, I think that's also good. If there are things that we're generally in support of. So,
and I'd second it for all the reasons that Mr. Hopcroft just mentioned.
All right, so we have a motion and a second on the acceptance of the motion and background language for the Morocco feasibility study article that was previously accepted by town meeting. We are in an online setting, so we need to take a roll call vote. I will start with Ms. Bolognese.
Aye.
Mr. Hopcroft?
Aye.
Mr. Belair?
Aye.
Ms. Binyarji?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, so we are 5-0 unanimous to move forward the motion and background language. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Marin and Dr. Hackett. If you'd like to move on to our other article for consideration, which is around the literacy study.
So as you know, good news, you have selected a literacy program, conclusion of, I would say, 3 years worth of work. It's definitely 2 years worth of work. And you had a great presentation at your last meeting. And I think I think you were, in speaking to you and hearing what you said at the meeting, I think we are super impressed with just the work that the group did, the team did, our teachers, our administrators, led by Ms. Kirby, as well as others. So this is the article that we submitted. You're actually looking at a letter that we sent to Chris Senior, the new town manager. I can tell you that it's not cheap. We have a solid quote now based on number of sections that we're planning for, based on the materials that we need to have with the actual program. And we'd be recommending $785,000 for this article. That would be inclusive of program materials as well as professional development as well. This is not inclusive of anything after next year. So as you know, there are consumables that come with this program that will need to be budgeted for it comes obviously for next year, we'll have those, but for the 28 and beyond, every single year, we will have to budget for the cost of those consumables moving forward. And I will just share with you that if any of you have a large truck and some time on your hands, I'm not exactly sure where you'd be traveling to, but shipping costs is about 10% of the total number. So for $60,000, if you could deliver that for half the cost, we probably should consider it. Kidding.
Well, Nancy has a truck.
Yes, she does. But it also is indicative of how many materials we're going to be getting, and the work has already begun on where do they go? They're going to be delivered to the schools. Who's going to be there? When do they get there? Who's going to be so the logistics have already been beginning to be discussed, but it will be quite an effort. We do have professional development on the last day of school for teachers. That is a $33,000 professional development session. Our plan is to use the already appropriate article for that for the pilot. And then we will, whatever remains for funds in that article that was approved for the pilot programming, we wouldn't need, so they'd be reverted to the town, and it would be taken off the total of this presumably. Or I don't know how the town would handle that, but we will have some leftover funding.
So that leftover funding would reduce the amount that you just estimated. Likely it's not on top of it, right?
It's not on top of it, right? It would reduce the amount. Yeah. I'm just not sure that's how the town would handle it, whether they
account for it.
The
net is, I mean, the good news is that we actually still have some money allocated, that whether it gets reverted to the town and we use the full new appropriation, or we share some of it, that's good.
So this did actually come up as a topic of discussion at the select board meeting on Monday night. And I think that there is it was actually the town comptroller who raised it. And I think there was a desire for us to repurpose the remaining funds. Dr. Hackett and Mr. Marin, I don't know if you know the exact number as it stands. I know there are some that are still committed to invoices that are continuing to come in from that project, but I think there was a desire to reduce the ask from free cash by the amount of money that was previously allocated. So I know that what we're trying to do is put a specific some specific changes, because we've already voted this motion in background. The article is the sort of updated language that went in via the select board for co-sponsorship, but I think that the pieces that need to be updated are the reason we're taking this up a second time.
And we're gonna have to take it up again once we know the dollar amount, correct?
So the dollar amount from what we have left over from the initial article.
Fill in that blank in the motion.
Yes, if that's how they want to handle it. We're we're maybe a week away from having more confidence in what that number will be, because we are still getting pricing on the professional development that's going to be run for teachers on the last day of school.
So is there a specific ask around an update? Because we did vote this last week. Is there a specific ask around an update for this week, or are you asking that we just be notified of this update and defer it until our next meeting next week?
There's not, we have the number on the actual program now. So if we, in a week, we'd be able to more than likely be able to say that we don't need this amount of money from that initial article. So if you want to wait, that's fine.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I think Dr. Matthews relaying the select board conversation, while it nets out to the same amount, optically, it's probably better and easier for the town to understand to come out with a smaller number and just say we applied the earlier money. So long as that works on the back end with everyone, I think that makes sense to wait.
I'm from a process standpoint, I don't know what Dr. Hackett you've talked about with the town manager. But I'm happy to move an update today with whatever we decide to change, or to hold off on this. I believe we're meeting twice next week, so I'm happy to do that as well, unless there's an urgency in terms of the select board to have some update from us on this.
I'm not aware of it, but it's not. There's no sense of urgency on our part.
Okay.
But will you
All right.
really know in a week what is expected to still be spent out of the remaining funding from the pilot from last year in a week?
Yes.
That's the
Oh, you
question.
will? Okay.
Okay. So we will have certainty on that by next week. Got it. Okay. All right. In that case, I personally would recommend that we hold on this until next week. And just revisit it with the specifics as discussed today.
And that's okay with the timing of the warrant closure and everything.
Well, so the complicated part is that the warrant at the last select board meeting, my understanding is the warrant is still open, and this is an article that was actually placed through prerogative of the select board. So the way the warrant works, for those who aren't familiar, because I learn something new all the time, is that select board members can bring forward, or select board as a collective can bring forward new articles until the warrant is closed. This is somewhat of an unusual year in that the warrant continues to remain open. The select board on Monday night, actually, one member discussed adding a potential article that I was going to bring up as our third item under this as well. But it is actually going to be likely to be voted next Monday night. So this is I'm thinking about this for a second. I think the way it works is that we may need to specify before the warrant is closed and then amend it later.
We've already voted this language here.
Yeah,
is that
but
right?
we voted it with a blank for the amount of money. We may need to fill in that blank, because I'm thinking about, because if the warrant closes on Monday and then gets printed, we may, depending on when so Dr. Hackett, we are planning to meet again next week.
I mean, alternatively, what I can tell you is that we would be comfortable in turning back 50,000 from that first article. So it won't be less than that, but it could be more than that. So if that's not an issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're okay, because the deadline for the motions and background is later. So the warrant is any articles. So I think we'll be fine, because it's the only, unless you anticipate that we need to make a change to the article language, we do still have flexibility around the motion and the background language.
It would only change if town council advised that it need to be changed.
Correct. All right. So I think we're good to hold on this because the blank that exists, unless there's any changes that you anticipate to the article, the only part that gets locked when the warrant closes is the articles, not the motions in background. We then have a.
By the way, I have no problem if we want to put in the full number, or whatever we think, the full number minus 50,000 is, or whatever. Vote the higher number and know that we might vote a lower number later if there's a question about meeting a deadline.
I don't think there is. I think we'll be okay.
Okay.
And I think we're planning to meet again next week, so it'll be fairly quick to do that by then. So I think my recommendation, I'm sorry for going around in a circle about that, but I think my recommendation is that we leave this be unless Dr. Hackett and Mr. Marin see a reason to change or a need to change the article language. I think we should just leave it be and come back to it next week. Everyone, do we have a committee consensus of that?
Yeah, we'll wait till next week.
Yeah.
Right. All right, so then I'll move on to the third item, which is one of the select board members at last week's meeting actually raised this week's Monday meeting. Sorry, it feels like we're each day is a week at this point. This week's Monday meeting raised that he was thinking about bringing and is planning to bring an article, very sort of targeted change to the prior 4 town meeting articles that were voted around the creation and staffing of the EFPBC. So as you all know from our prior discussions, we're in a somewhat awkward position because of the fact that the school committee's appointed representative to the EFPBC, who's now moving into the 3rd year of a 3-year term, is not currently a sitting member of the school committee. The proposed language is to give control to the school committee of that appointment, so that it's not a termed appointment like other termed appointments to the EFPBC. So in the event that there is actually a changeover in the membership of the EFPBC or in the membership of the school committee, specifically during time periods where we are working with MSBA and the school building committee that's appointed by the school committee as their representative for the project. One of the legal requirements that's part of that is that a sitting school committee member be part of that school building committee. So right now, as we move towards the Morocco project, it's somewhat challenging because we would not necessarily be able to designate the EFPBC as our school building committee because it doesn't have a sitting school committee member on it. So the select board member, Mr. Bayani, proposed that an article to change the 4 prior articles around the composition of the EFPBC such that the school committee appointment is actually at the pleasure of the school committee. There's specific language around that that is used in other articles and in our bylaw around committee appointments. But that would clean up the issue in the event that there is a need to appoint the EFPBC as our school building committee, such that we are in compliance with MSBA's regulations around that. Are there any questions on that? It's sort of an early stage thing, but I guess I'd like to sort of do 2 things. One of them is to get any questions from the committee, from our school committee, that I can then relay back to the select board members. And then the second question I would actually have is whether folks are sort of not to take a vote today, but just by consensus sort of in support of such a change. Ms. Polanese.
I think that change makes sense from a procedural level because it does say very clearly, I think, in the MSBA paperwork requirements that this is supposed to be a member of the school committee to the EFPBC. And I think just making that change and then also clearing that up in our policy would make sense. So I would be supportive.
Great, thanks. Are there others that have questions or could at least give me a sense of where we're at as a committee on that?
I agree.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Belair.
Yes, no, I agree as well. It's important that we remain compliant with MSBA, especially as we enter our discussions about Morocco.
Yeah, and I'm generally in support as well. I have no reason not to be supportive of it. I just haven't really thought about it in that much detail about what the ramifications are of it. So, what you've said on the surface seems to make sense to me.
It's just an interesting. It was not something I necessarily anticipated, but it came up, and I was happened to be watching the meeting when it came up. So I wanted to just flag it for everybody because it's, I think, something that we had all been discussing in ways, right? The sort of potential of being out of compliance with an MSBA membership requirement around the school committee on our appointed school building committee. So I would say that in summary, I'm generally supportive as well. Obviously, looking forward to seeing the final article and then later the motion and background language that we can vote a position on as a committee, whether we support that and take a vote around that. So, but just wanted to flag that for folks.
Are they
Are
looking?
the risks? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask, is the select board looking for any particular kind of support from the school committee?
No, I don't think right now. It was just, as I said, it was just Mr. Baiani, sort of because the warrant was still open. I think he kind of added it on as a potentially late breaking addition on Monday night. And since it directly affects the school committee, I wanted to bring it to your attention and sort of get a sense of where we were at. I think once the warrant closes in that article, should he choose to bring that forward, either under his own name or with support of the select board, then we can, I think the action item on our part will be to actually have a vote later on of support for that article or not.
The risk of I don't know my relationship. Dr. Hackett, do you have any thoughts on this one way or the other? You almost escaped this one, but I'm just curious if it.
Leave it to Mr. Hopcroft to put the superintendent on the hot
and
seat.
you're on mute. Yeah.
I think I'm in a
Well,
tunnel.
you can say no.
I can't hear you. I think I'm in a tunnel. No, I mean, not that I would necessarily care to share or think would make a difference in me saying it, but
Okay.
I think in summary, what I would say is this is just one of those weird and awkward things. Unfortunately, we've gotten a bunch of different situations where different committees have been created by active town meeting over the years. And sometimes there are unintended consequences that may not have been anticipated at the time when language is a little less than crisp. So this just, the sort of original idea behind the EFPBC was to do two major things. One of them is to serve as a school building committee when we do projects with MSBA. And the other one was to sort of oversee the master plan, the strategic master plan process. So the fact that there's this incongruity, I guess, that I would describe it as, it makes it a little challenging because if we are out of compliance, then I don't really know what our lawyer would say, but being out of compliance with membership when we go into designating EFPBC as the school building committee is, I would, in my opinion, just a less than optimal scenario. So.
I would
Yeah.
support
generally,
the idea that being out of compliance in general with anything it's not good. So
yeah, I'm generally in support of being in compliance. There's a lot of areas we're probably out of compliance on that, so we're picking on. So
no, there isn't any.
nope. Okay, there we go.
As
You heard it
Dr.
here
Hackett
first.
once said to me, just follow your policy. So.
Exactly. All right. So moving right along, Mr. Marin, if you don't mind, if you could pull up the budget subcommittee update. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to present in terms of a deck, but item 4B, our next item under reports and action items, is the budget subcommittee update. And Ms. Minyarji and I were both there yesterday, so we will defer to you or Dr. Hackett for a summary on behalf of the committee. And I know there were other committee members that were listening in quietly. So.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Matthews. I'll just briefly run through our discussion from the last meeting here. So we did a review of the budget in general. And so from the override for all the services to the foundational budget we're working with now around 5% in sort of the reductions or increases that need to be made to achieve that number. So here's just a reminder of that number. So from the override budget, 5%, and it's about 2.3 million reductions from the override side. And there are two paths that we're pursuing to help get to that number. So one is a look at all the of our expenses around in our operating budget. And then the other side is our revenues. And our revenues, although they're small, they're not insignificant. They support 50 to 60% of some of our programs, like transportation and athletics and other areas. And so the focus of our last meeting was around those fees. And I'll go to just one slide. This is very much a draft, and we had very good discussions and some homework for Dr. Hackett and myself to dig deeper in some of these and kind of flesh them a little bit more. But we're looking at increases sort of across the board in all of our fees. So from transportation, athletics, music, early childhood, and even on our food and nutrition services side. So looking at the balance of our costs. So I'll explain. So some of these programs, so like transportation, athletics, there's a core component that's carried in the operating budget that we appropriate, and you'll see a line. So if you're digging through our detailed budget, you'll see appropriation for athletics or transportation, and then that's balanced with user fees that come in through a revolving fund. And those two sources of revenue together, the appropriation and fees, make up the entire program. And then that's that balance of 60 to 50%. So we spoke about what balance we want to look at maintaining. And so looking at what it would take to reduce sort of reliance on operating appropriations through that budget, and what the increase would need to be on the user fee side, or reductions in program to get that, to shift that balance there. So that's some of the homework we're doing around transportation, and also in athletics, especially. And also in athletics, looking sort of at our program, and then in comparison to a lot of other districts that we benchmark against and what fees they're charging. So some schools are adding additional fees based on what sports exist there. So like one example would be maybe on the hockey side, adding an additional fee to help pay for the ice rink and the ice time there, where that's sort of an outlier from what we supply for other programs there. And then just know on nutrition services, those fees sort of is an equity equation with the state that we follow through DESE and federal guidance on how to raise those rates. And so we have to be at or above a certain level each year. And so some of these fees we may look at sort of a consistent increase FY27 through FY30, and others like the nutrition services we may just do for 27 and then wait for that guidance every year to then make sure we're in alignment with that balance. I'll pause there for any questions, but we have a lot more homework to do on this and have more of an update over the next week or two.
How much are these increasing? How much of these are sort of normal year-over-year increases that we might do because things get more expensive versus things that we're doing because of the override? Do you have a sense on that?
Yeah, so in the larger ones in transportation, we have not gone up on fees since I've been here, I can recall. So that has not changed. So we've carried any impacts with inflation and new contracts around that purely out of the operating appropriation. Athletics has been similar. If you recall, we only went up in the past due to paying for, I think, an additional part of the athletic trainer. And there's a small amount for some like hockey mask that we put in one year. But other than that, it's been basically flat. And then it's really been carried through the user fee side, which you did increase last year, $50. And then also through a surplus that program had sort of gathered during the COVID era, and that has essentially been spent down. And then music has not gone up in a long time. The early childhood component, I think it was 2 fiscal years ago, you voted 3 years. So it was FY27 being the last year of an increase. So 27 is baked in at 5% for our preschool program, and then it'd be 28 through 30 that we'd be looking to adjust for. And then nutrition services, we usually go up annually based on that that factor from the state.
Thank you.
Are there other questions?
Over time, obviously, there's more work to be done here and to be filled in, and then to understand, how this will impact overall will be interesting. But that's not on this slide.
And Mr. Marin, could you just sort of fill us in on the nutrition services and how it interacts with the free breakfast and lunch program and requirement from the state?
Yeah, great point. So the universal free breakfast and lunch remains. That's funded through the state. So as long as they continue to carry that, we'll be able to still offer that. So the dollar amounts presented here are really for those second and third meals that students purchase. And so usually elementary level, they're getting just that one meal. It's really the secondary level that we're seeing a lot of additional meals. And I see a lot of the athletes at high school getting 3 and 4 meals there to meet their goals for the day. So that's where that kicks in. And then also on the staff side. So there's not universal free breakfast or lunch for staff. They pay either way. So.
And I know we said this at budget sub, but for eligible families, the fees, all of these fees are waived, correct?
Yes. So in a certain sense, yeah, if there's a financial burden, we will work with families. Usually it's aligned with those who have applied to our free and reduced meal form. So that's the process that guides that. And then also just a note, that top line on transportation. So state requires if you're more than 2 miles from school in grades K through 6, we have to provide free transportation. In Winchester, due to the makeup of our neighborhood schools, it's mostly just those in 6th grade who meet that metric, and we provide free busing for.
And I just wanted to point out, so does that, what Ms. Mignardi said, does that apply to the early childhood programming? Obviously, I think Ms. Mignardi, you meant to refer to the fees exclusive of early childhood tuition, because I'm not necessarily sure that's true of. Okay, I just wanted to be clear about that.
I'll make a note too. So early childhood is an integrated program. So there is part that we fully fund for those students who who are placed in that program. And it's a 50-50 balance of those who then are tuition based and these fees only apply to. But even still, if there's someone in that tuition based program that has some burden, we work with them as well on that.
All right, I see Ms. Milanese has her hand raised.
Oh, I just had a clarification on the universal free breakfast and lunch. Was there a date from the state on sunsetting that, or is that just in place forevermore? I thought there was a date.
No, yeah, I've seen it in perpetuity. That they've tied it to, there's an official name for it, but it's from that millionaire's tax program, which they've carried that along with shifting some other Chapter 70 support. So the makeup is different, what funds that, but that's majority where that's funded from.
And isn't it also partially funded through the federal meals program? Is that?
No, so yes, yeah, technically, yeah, correct. So there's a federal reimbursement, and then the free element comes from the state side.
Okay,
yes.
yeah. Just sorry, I wanted to be super clear. Are there other questions on this before Mr. Marin moves on? All right, seeing none. I think unless there's any more general questions, I think we are sort of looking forward to our next budget subcommittee meeting, which will be happening next Monday at noon. And obviously there will be more updates to come there as we start to get more information and make some take some votes to make recommendations to the full committee for how to move forward on the budget. Moving on, mindful of time to 4C, which is our spring town meeting update. I will leave that to Mr. Marin and Dr. Hackett if they have anything specific on this. Don't know if there's a deck, but
there is not. No, we didn't. We have this on the agenda just in case we needed it. Obviously, we're approaching spring town meeting. which is the week after April vacation. So, but we don't have anything specific on it.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you didn't have anything
Nope, I
specific.
appreciate it. Yeah, no, but we kind of already talked about it. So.
Yep, agreed. All right, so 4D, Mr. Marin, if you could just pull up. So we are having reorganized at our last meeting. We are moving on to doing our organization of subcommittees and liaisons and town board and committee appointments for 2026-27. It's really still the 25-26 school year, but we're kind of putting this in place as a placeholder for moving forward. And I just wanted to, with Mr. Belair having joined the committee and Ms. Bergstrom having retired, I just wanted to quickly acknowledge the appointments that we put together, or that I put together as chair. Most of these are chair appointments. As I said before, our subcommittees, as they stand right now, are budget. The two members that'll be serving for the time being are myself and Ms. Minyarji, and Ms. Bolognese is going to be the alternate for times when one of us is not able to attend. The policy subcommittee, we're going to have Ms. Bolognese continuing in her amazing role as chair and being joined by Mr. Belair for the time being. This may change as the budget situation smooths out, but this is where we're at right now. And I did not actually put in here. I'm hoping I'm going to actually ask Ms. Bolognese as chair of the policy subcommittee to consider my recommendation that I made in my chair remarks last week of adding a data and accountability subcommittee. And then that will have to come back by committee policy to the full committee for a vote. So I would ask that at the next policy subcommittee meeting that be considered, because I would very much like to add that subcommittee for this year, given the situation with the budget and our need to keep an eye on our accountability data. Moving along to our liaisons, these all, for the most part, are staying the same as they were last year. I had to make some brief changes to folks, to places where Ms. Bergstrom was there, and swap out other members of the committee. I noticed that I even left in Ms. Bergstrom embarrassingly in cell D18. But this is sort of more or less the way it was in the past. I've asked Mr. Belair to join me for the time being as a co-representative to both the Lincoln and the Morocco PTOs. And then we've had a slight swap. We have Mr. Hopcroft moving over to join Ms. Minyarji at the McCall Parent Association. Obviously, Ms. Minyarji has an incoming middle schooler next year, whether she may want to acknowledge that or not. Our kids do age regardless of how we try to stop them from doing so. And then with Ms. Bolognese's son moving into a senior year at the high school, we're having her swap over to the Winchester High School Parent Association as liaison, and asked Mr. Belair to join her as well as the liaison for that. Otherwise, things stay more or less as they are. Other appointments, obviously, we discussed the EFPBC potential article, and we will revisit that as needed when we come back to it later. The only other big change that I made here was that with Ms. Bergstrom having rolled off the committee, I am asking Mr. Belair to join the Housing Partnership Board on the school committee's behalf, and move that forward. And then if we just scroll down a little bit further, not obviously sure exactly about what's going to happen with the State of the Town Committee. At the moment, it may need to come back in some form in the coming school year, but we will revisit that and membership at the time. And then finally, just to end out our WEA negotiations. So as announced last week, Mr. Belair will be joining me as our representative to Unit D as we begin our negotiations on that agreement. And I believe that we are very close to the end of the Unit E work. Many thanks to Ms. Bolognese for leading that with Mr. Hopcroft as an alternate. So That is kind of where we're at now. I promise I will make the change, removing Ms. Bergstrom earlier up there. And then if Ms. Bolognese, you can bring up the Data and Accountability Subcommittee proposal at the next policy subcommittee meeting, that would be great. But otherwise, just given the fact that we have some situations where there's some lack of clarity in both the bylaw and the different town meeting articles around the structures of these committees. I would ask at this time if somebody would be willing to make a motion to acknowledge or accept the subcommittee appointments from the chair as presented today.
So moved.
All right, I will take Ms. Bolognese as the motion and Ms. Mignardi as the second, and we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Belair.
Aye.
Mr. Hopcroft.
Aye.
Ms. Bolognese.
Aye.
Ms. Mignardi.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, so we are 5-0 unanimous on that for the record. Thank you so much for your help with that. Mindful of our time and the hard stop that folks have, our next meetings will be Tuesday, April 7th at a time to be determined, and Thursday, April 9th, Tuesday, April 14th, Thursday, April 16th, Wednesday, April 22nd, a virtual meeting during vacation week. And then we will hold our pre-Springtown meeting sessions for April 27th and 30th and May 4th and 7th, not exactly knowing what might come up and if we may need to cancel some of those or may be able to cancel some of those as well. I probably, it's okay to do this in open session. I'm also happy to do this via scheduling text, but for next week, do folks have preferences or absolute cannot do's in terms of the timings for our Tuesday, April 7th and Thursday, April 9th meetings?
I can't do the evening on the 7th.
Noon seems to work for my scheduling.
Is that true of everyone on the committee? Certainly, I think I'm more than happy to do a noon meeting on the 7th.
I think the noontime works for me. I have something mid-morning, but
I personally cannot do noontime on the 9th, but Dr. Hackett, I don't know if you and Mr. Marion, if there's any particular things we anticipate in terms of presentations where we might need to do it a little later in the day. I don't know if you have anything on the agenda where you're thinking about bringing in educators who might be teaching at midday.
No, sorry.
Okay, all right. So let me, so we will confirm Tuesday, April 7th, virtually at noon, and then I will work with you on the Thursday, April 9th time. I could do a little later in the afternoon, but I just can't do the noon time that day.
Yeah, I can't do noon on Thursday. I could do the evening time on Thursday if you want.
Okay.
Evening
Can
time.
I ask, can we back up for a second? I've got too many windows open and I was trying to get to my calendar. What time on the 7th?
Noon virtually seemed to be the sort of
Okay.
consensus.
All right. I am not gonna be able to do that.
Okay.
My
Yeah.
apologies.
How about 1 o'clock?
I am not able to do 1 o'clock either. I can do anything after 2
Does that work
or
for folks?
anything before noon.
Before noon would be better for me.
I cannot do before noon.
Dr. Allen and I have a meeting with the Department of Ed at noon, and we are not gonna be late or miss it. So
Okay.
I mean, I could do 11 a.m., I think.
Could everybody do 11 a.m. on Monday? It would just be a very tight
Tuesday.
agenda. Tuesday, sorry. A very tight agenda, 1 hour meeting from 11 to 12.
11 a.m. works for Stephanie.
Okay.
Works for Tom too.
On.
Mr. Blair?
It works.
Good. All right. So we'll Dr. Hackett, Tuesday, April 7th, 11 a.m. We will look at times later in the day on Thursday, April 9th. And then we will hold TBD on the timings for the future meetings the following week. All right. Thanks so much. Future agenda items, budget.
Dr.
Yes.
I think can we move back for a second to C? Might have spoken too soon, I believe. Ms. Banerjee, if you wanted to share something.
Yes, a memo to WCCP regarding the carriage house, because I know that came up as a concern on their table. And so I've put together a memo for your consideration, just to clarify our position, not just on the article that's coming forward for Springtown meeting, but just to explain that the asset is under our care and control, and the importance of that, because considering that it's in the middle of one of our elementary schools. Do you want me to share it and then we can consider reviewing it, or do we want to take it up at our next meeting? Whatever Dr. Chair wants.
Is it?
Uh,
Dr. Hackett, did it go out in the packet?
I don't believe. No, I did not. I don't.
Okay.
I was not sure I got a copy, but I very well could have, and it has been a bit crazy. So I would.
There's a lot going on. No problem.
Sorry,
I think it would be a good item for the 7th.
That was a rhetorical question. I knew it didn't go out in the packet, but I just.
I know what you're doing.
Okay,
So I'm playing along for the public.
In that case, we will treat this as an FYI from our vice chair, who also is our representative to capital planning, and has a deep, long-term following of this issue, has been our representative as things have moved through CPC. So let us plan to take this up as an agenda item at our next meeting, and we will make sure to get that memo into folks' packets.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
All right. With that, I think, so our moving back to the agenda, our upcoming agenda items largely are budget, and also the WCCP memo regarding the carriage house. So unless others have anything else they would like to bring up, I am going to ask that we move into executive session, and I will accept a motion to move into executive session for purpose 2, which is to discuss strategy with respect to negotiations with non-union administrative personnel, as the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the committee, as well as purpose 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with Unit E of the WEA, as the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the committee.
And is that link sent to us?
I'm sending
Like
it right
recently,
now.
or-
I'm sending it right now.
Perfect, okay.
I don't like to send it ahead of time because then you can't read it.
I appreciate that, because I was looking at the top of my email, I didn't see it, and I thought, oh, do I have to dig through my emails to find this, or is there a new one coming? So thank you.
You're going to be pretty excited in a second.
Yeah.
And the
All right.
plan is not to return
Yes,
to
so
open.
I would say that, yeah. So if someone's willing to make a motion,
So moved.
all right. So motion from Ms. Bolognese, second from Ms. Minyarji. So this is all in favor of moving into executive session without a plan to return into public session following that executive session. Roll call vote. Ms. Minyarji?
Aye.
Ms. Bolognese?
Aye.
Mr. Hopcroft?
Aye.
Mr. Belair?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, so we are unanimous, and we will move into executive session. We will see you all in public session next Tuesday. Thanks so much for your time, and thanks to WinCam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.